You want me to make an opening statement or what? Okay, really the intent of getting together today was just to talk about, kind of where we're at as an organization, as a team. Certainly you guys have been keeping up with the additions to our staff and certainly the team. The big thing here is with the current players, we're completing kind of a 13-day assessment period. We've been through kind of taking each individual player on the team, going through an assessment profile with each person, really getting some baseline numbers in terms of where we're at, what are the issues, what are the areas that we can improve, kind of a starting point. We begin phase one on January the 18th, which is we call foundation. We really try to define that for the players. This is an action of establishing an organization. It's a body upon which something is built, right? It's a basis upon which something stands, right? So I think in college football, each year you got to kind of start the process over. It's a new group of players. It's a new group of staff. Certainly the organization always has probably 25 or 30% of attrition, right? So new leadership roles at all levels. And then you've got a group of new people, rookie players, rookie staff members that have to learn expectations and learn systems and kind of our approach. So, this will consist of 10 lifts, 12 team runs. The goal here is to build trust within the organization, to establish communication. I think it's important that you define self-discipline for the players. We want to define attention to detail, and we're trying to create a structure here, a routine. Time management obviously is a big component of this, and then we want to establish expectations as a new group, a new way of operating here, establish accountability, and it's important that we're consistent and that we're fair. We have goals and objectives for all the development parts of our program, right? Strength and conditioning, performance and sports science, nutrition, the athletic training room, academics, and our new Gator Made program that we will launch here pretty soon. So, vision without an action is a dream, right? So it's important here that we translate this vision that we have for the University of Florida football into simple, everyday actions, right? Our goal here is to equip the players. We're trying to create habits that will help them in all parts of their lives as people, as students, and as football players. And I think the way that you change your future, you create a better future for yourself, is doing these simple things that we're talking about, right? So this is for individual players, and then I think obviously that's going to affect us collectively as a group and as a team. I'm sure you guys will have lots of questions about some of these additions, and we can get into that. But Phase 1 foundation starts Tuesday, and we look forward to that. What questions do we have here?
Edgar?
May I participate in Phase 1 first off, please?
Sure. You're here today.
So without looking at your notes, how many people have you hired?
I could probably tell you how many we have left to hire. Probably more than how many we've hired. I think I know that we've tried to be intentional about building this, the right way. I don't know the number off the top of my head. We still have work. There's work left to do here. We've tried to be really patient, and thorough. A lot goes into this, right? It's the most important thing that we do. So I think if you get it right in the front end, then there's less issues going forward, right? So that's what we're trying to do. I'm really excited about the caliber of person that we've been able to attract here, not only their character and integrity, but also their expertise in the area that we're asking them to do work with the team and the organization. And then obviously there's the recruiting strategy and footprint is a big part of that as well. So each one of these is a big deal, right? I think there's a lot of people that contribute to your success in college football, and I think we understand that.
It was kind of a joke. I was wondering if you could pull that number out. But the other thing is sitting and watching Georgia do what it just did, and obviously #1 rival in the East Division. There's always a sense of urgency around this job you have. Does it heighten it, and does it sharpen the focus even heading into this offseason for you and this program?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, congratulations to University of Georgia, right? I mean, Kirby Smart, his staff, his team, an incredible year, right? We certainly recognize that. You know, I think it's, you know, I know a lot of those people, right? I mean, I know a lot of those people in that building, so it's a significant accomplishment, right? And but you know, I think for us, we've got our own grass to mow, right? We got a lot of things that we need to get in order, right? So I think it's important for us to focus on the things that we can control, but also understand your question. I think you got to be aware of the competition, know your competition, and certainly we'll get into those things as we get closer to competing. But right now, I'm a little more concerned and working hard on what's going on inside our house, you know, instead of worrying about what the neighbor's house is doing. So, and I think that's just where we're at, right? That's the where we're at in this process is really evaluating all the things that are going on relative to the development of our players. What can we do better to help them, you know, in all areas, and that's the approach we've taken. So, but you know, each year, one team gets to stand on that stage and hold the trophy up, right? So the good thing is that this place has done it before, right? So we're very capable, but I also think we understand the amount of hard work and that goes into that. So we got a lot of work to do before we start worrying about that.
What is the actual process for evaluating a guy you haven't coached, a guy who you inherit for all intents and purposes?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think it's a lot of dialogue, right? It's a lot of conversation. Certainly, you know, you're not just evaluating a guy from a physical component, right? You're evaluating, you know, what is his history on the field from a production standpoint, right? What is his history as a teammate? You know, what is the consensus amongst the people in the building about them as people? Certainly, they've got a track record academically. And some of these players we have history with where we know them from the past. But I think the big thing here is that we've got to establish working relationships. You know, we've got to establish trust and communication with all the areas of the organization that work with the player, right? And some of those areas that I talked about earlier, you know, those come to the forefront this time of the year, right? We will begin working with the players as a staff, you know, after National Signing Day when we kind of move into phase 2. So, but I think that we've had a kind of a 13-day approach here. All these areas have been meeting with the players. It's really taken a kind of an IDP approach, right, an individualized development plan. You know, I think that's important part of what we do. In each one of these areas, you know, we've hired really good people, and they're off to a good start. So, but it's a great question.
Another part of development here for you is the standalone. How knee-deep have you gotten in that thing, and have you made changes? I mean, it's one thing to inherit something that's still not built. Have you made a lot of changes to that so that it formats so that it fits what you want to do?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing some of that. We had about an hour and 15-minute meeting yesterday with that group of people. But, you know, you have to compliment the administration, you know, their professionalism. You know, we've hired the absolute best in the entire country, 2 different companies there. that are working on that dynamic. Obviously, I think the administration did a good job of doing their research. They visited a number of places throughout the country, some of the very best facilities out there. And that's the goal, right? We want to have not only the most impressive, but the most functional facility in the entire country, right? And I think we're in the process of evaluating that, and there'll be a lot of back and forth there. But the good thing is we've got an opportunity to make ourselves different, right? To improve our product, to improve the experience of not only football, but I think that one of the cool things that I like about this new facility is it has the all scholar athlete dining, the inside lounge, the outside lounge area that all student athletes will have an opportunity to access. So that's a huge component, and it will help all of the athletic department in that regard.
Any significant changes on your part?
Nothing of note at this point. I think.
So we're gonna have a lazy river.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about the lazy river as much as maybe I'm concerned with other parts of it. But yeah, a lot of work to do before we worry about a lazy river. I can promise you that.
David Whitley. Back to the hiring for a minute. People see all these hires. I think it's 40. I don't know. Like you don't know exactly what it is, but the growth of support staffs in general. People see. They make jokes. This guy's the assistant to make the coffee club. As you said, every job is vital, is important. Explain why you say, but the quality control code for inside linebackers. What is the importance of these jobs?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that goes to the answer to that, but I think the big thing here is relative to the number of student athletes that we have, right? We have, we're going to approach 130, somewhere around that number of players, right? We have 85 scholarship players. The goal here is to have a 50-man walk-on roster. So, that ratio there, when you really think about coach-to-player ratio, I don't necessarily know that if you evaluate other sports, right, I think that coach-to-player ratio is much smaller, right, than your traditional head coach, 10 assistant blueprint. So we want to build more relationships, more people that can have a positive impact on the current players, right? Also, I think that's a big part of what we believe in, right? More people that can have a sincere care for the player, want to impact the player. I think the second component for me is about balance in life, quality of life for your really talented people within the organization, right? I think that this profession can chew you up and spit you out. I mean, literally, I could work every day of my life from the sun up to sundown and more. There's that much work to do, right? I mean, I think as competitors, we can let it consume us at times, right? So one of the things I appreciated about some of these places I've worked in the past is you had a team of people that help you, and that allows you to delegate. That allows you to be really efficient with your time, to get good at the things that are important, right? Kind of keep the main thing, not get caught up in the minutia, hand some of those things off and focus on the things that really affect the final product, right? So, I think that balance, quality of life, the ability to do a good job at home, right, with your wife, with your kids. Some of the people in our building, they don't necessarily have that dynamic, but a lot of your staff members do, and I think that's important to me. And when we get this thing up and running, right, you have very clearly defined roles and job descriptions for all 8 phases of your football plan and all 6 stages of your recruiting plan. So, you want to get a systematic approach up and running. Everybody's really good at what they do. We try to repeat this process each year and get better at it, right? and you have enough people to execute that plan, right? I think there's nobody that's just sitting around eating popcorn, watching the game. I mean, we've got things for them to do, right? So, we're not going to hire anybody that, we don't have a very clearly defined role for, and we feel like that their role is very important, right? So, and the key here is that they all understand what their role is. They do their job, and they understand the impact that they can have on the player and the impact that they can have on our team. And if we can create that type of culture, I think we've got a chance. So I think that's probably just.
When you first started with Clemson back many years ago, you were Jago. How big was that staff?
Yeah, no, I think that I've been fortunate to see the evolution. I think I started, we had 9 assistants, 2 GAs, an ops guy, and a high school relations guy, and early in my career, one of the 9 assistants ran the recruiting, the whole operation, right, had that job, right? So to see it kind of evolve a little bit here as we go, and then here comes more components, right, to the big picture, right? NIL, transfer portal, right? Other areas where you have to have a strategy and have to have specific people working in those areas. So the game has always been evolving. It continues to evolve, and I think we're fortunate to be a place where they've given us the resources to do it a certain way, and we look forward to taking that on.
Hey, Bellator.
Wanted to touch on two of the women you hired specifically. Obviously, you have a big recruiting weekend this weekend. Katie and Bree, just what did you identify in them and what they were able to do in their jobs to create an atmosphere on campus for recruiting, and how much leeway and power do they have to kind of run a weekend like this when you have so many guys?
I think you kind of have to separate the evaluation process from the recruitment process, if that makes sense, right? So you've got the personnel component of what you do, and then you kind of have the Ritz-Carlton effect, right? The hospitality component of what you do, right? The customer service side of what you do, right? So it's basically we're in the sales business, right? We're selling our product, right? We're presenting our product. We're creating unique experiences for the player, their families. And I think in recruiting, it's important that you get really individualized, right? Because no situation is the same, right? Some parts of the decision are more important to certain families. So I think that's what Katie and Bree do, right? They help us organize the experiences that these players have when they come on our campus, right? And no detail is too small, and I think that they have experience doing this, and I think that they're going to do a great job. So this will be kind of our first run at it this weekend. And one thing I can tell you about Katie and Bree, they will get better each opportunity. So it's a big part of what we do, and certainly for me, you give them ownership, you let them do their job, and you give them feedback as you go. That's the approach we'll take.
I think when players commit, it's always attached to a coach, but is that maybe an underseen or undervalued on the outside part of recruiting? Just the relationships that those kind of staff have?
Right. Yeah, I think your question is a good one, right? What is the value of an assistant coach or recruiting coach in the decision-making process, right? I do think it's important, right? But I think the approach that we will take here is a very objective evaluation process and a very team approach to the recruitment process, right? So, I think that's the approach we're going to take, right? I know lots of coaches and staffs do it differently, but we're going to be objective evaluation, team recruiting, and everything will be mapped out from that approach.
And then tapping Corey Raymond or getting Corey Raymond to leave LSU, I think people have probably been trying to do that for a decade. what do you know of him as a coach? How far does that relationship go back? Obviously, both of you coaching in the
Right.
state, and then how big is it to get him to be able to kind of coach your team now?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Corey and I, we were very familiar with each other, right? We competed against each other, you know, always very impressed with him from a teaching perspective, right? You know, I used to watch him in pregame, right? His drill progression, the detail and the technique that his players play with, right? Play with, you know, really good fundamentals, played with great leverage, understood the concept, and certainly he did a good job evaluating players and then developing those guys. And they, you know, obviously his pedigree, his track record speaks for itself, right? So, you know, I think when you are trying to hire someone, oftentimes you're either betting on their ceiling, right? You're saying, okay, this person has an extremely high ceiling, or history's the best indicator of the future. This guy's going to produce. Usually it's somewhere, one of those two or somewhere in the middle. This is a proven developer of talent, right? This is a proven evaluator, right? This is a proven relationship builder. He has wisdom, he has experience, he has insight, he has relationships. So this is one of those hires where, you know, you're hiring a true expert in his area, right? So, and he's already made an impact on our team and recruiting. So we're very excited about Corey.
Coach, I know that you mentioned when you first had your press conference that the transfer portal was going to be important. You've already received 3 or 4 guys in. Are there any others that are in that haven't been announced? Number one, and number two, have you given much thought to how many transfers you're going to take? Because I know you've got a limited number of slots available, and plus you get the +7 for guys after the 15th of December.
Right. So, yeah, I think we were fortunate in that we were able to kind of be around and observe bowl practice, right? We put the players to an evaluation workout. We made profile tapes of every player that was returning on the team. You know, I think we're able to wrap our head around about, you know, the current team, where we're at, positions of concern from a depth perspective. You know, where is there a gap in depth? And then we went out and acquired some players in some of those positions. Now, there's more to come, you know. I think you could see us add a number of players over the next, 10 days or so, maybe a little less than that, 8 to 10 days. So we're still in the process of kind of working on that part of our team. You got, from a recruiting perspective here, you have a window to get them in now, okay, and then you got kind of a sprint until February signing day, and then you'll have another opportunity to add some players kind of, prior to summer school start, right? So 3 windows of time here to add players, and certainly we're working hard in all 3 of those areas.
Also, you're bringing in so many new faces, and I know you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old guys, wondering what the heck's going on with all these new faces. But you did keep Paul Pasqualoni, and you did keep Vernell Brown. And would you talk about the importance of keeping them on your staff and what they're bringing to the table for you?
Yeah, certainly. VB is, his reputation speaks for itself, amongst the administration, amongst former players, amongst the current players. I kind of told him the other day, you're the jack of all trades. He knows not only how things were done, but the history behind why they were done that way. And he's really helped us solve a lot of problems so far, right? And probably the most important component here is this guy really cares about the University of Florida, right? He cares about, going about things the right way. And I think he's objective enough to, give his good, bad, ugly of all the things he's observed over time, if that makes sense. So, and certainly Coach P is, he's a legend, right? I mean, this guy's, I've heard his name my entire coaching career, right? To have an opportunity, I knew pretty quickly when I sat down with him, his wisdom, experience, knowledge, in a lot of different areas, right? I think to have an opportunity to have a guy like that around, it didn't anticipate that happening, right? But the more conversations we had, the more that it became apparent to me that this guy could help us win, right? He could help us improve our team and our organization. So, I think both those guys, they bring value, and certainly we wouldn't have retained them if we didn't believe that.
Hey, Billy, I've got two for you. Around the bowl game, Emry Jones had acknowledged that he was thinking about entering the portal, but at least as of yesterday's Instagram stories, he's still here. Are you able to confirm his status with the team?
What, Instagram what?
Instagram stories. There were people following him around, wearing UF clothes. He's still at the stadium and all the good stuff.
Yeah, no, Emory's here. He's in class. He's participating. He's done a fantastic job with all the things we've asked him to do. I would hope that, our fans and all the people out there would understand what a big deal that is, right? I mean, this is a guy who is a class act, right? He's been very impressive to me, the caliber of person that he is. He's managed a very difficult situation well. And anything that happened in the past, it's important not only for the players, but for all the people that care about the University of Florida, that care about our football program, to kind of separate those things, right? The staff has given each one of these players a new beginning, right? Kind of a fresh start. I think it's important, and our fans do that, right? So, Emory is, I think he cares about this place. It's important to him to represent this place the right way. So, and he'd be the first to admit, he's played really well at times and he's struggled at times, right? So I think for me as a coach going forward, in particular the quarterback, right, you're the teacher, they're the student, right? I'm going to work with those guys exclusively every day, right? So when the team struggles or the player struggles, it's important that you take ownership of that as the teacher, right? And certainly we'll have that approach, right? But we have a lot of work to do, to get ready to play winning football, right? And that's certainly a lot of that has to do with the quarterback position. So, as far as Emory's concerned, he's been great so far.
And with that being said, in addition to Emory, you've got Anthony Richardson, the kind of local star, Jack Miller transferring from Ohio State. What are your general impressions of the room as it stands?
Yeah, we're fortunate to have some really good players. I think we got some dynamic, it's been well documented what AR's, it's impressive to watch, right? So I couldn't be more excited about that room, right? I felt like we needed to add a player there, some depth there. Certainly Kitna, Del Rio, we've got a good room, right? And I think I'd be more prepared to comment on that once we kind of begin the work, but just based off of what I've observed so far, we've got a very capable room. I'm excited to work with that whole group.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.